Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Skill Gap podcast. Now, first and foremost, if you are listening on YouTube, I wanted to thank you for the likes, shares, retweets, whatever on our latest video, which if you haven't seen, it's a record-breaking video, over 100,000 views. So if you are new to the channel, obviously you can expect more of that. Everything related to FIFA, whatever I kind of enjoy making, I post on here, including this podcast, who I will now introduce you to the other host, Persian. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Running on 2 hours sleep, but I mean, this is probably the perfect time for the pod because obviously lots has happened with that video, and you were there because we made the clips together. So you were in the trenches with me. So What was it like for you before it all started? Because we're going to get into like the aftermath of the video, but we were there. I probably should have I wanted to post a reaction, our voices, because we were dying. But yeah, what was it like for you in that moment?
I mean, going in, we kind of, because there's like more than 5,000 games between us on FIFA 17. We played a lot of FIFA 17, so we knew like what FIFA 17 had that 20 didn't have. I think I speak for the both of us that we didn't think it would be this bad. Like the difference would be this big, because at that point there's one of those clips where Pogba literally starts sprinting around the pitch. That's when we that's when our jaws literally dropped. Like we were literally dying laughing. Like this can't be this bad. This can't be this. The difference can't be this big. And pretty much, I remembered like FIFA 17 having a different, like having more AI like movement, but I didn't remember it to be this like huge, basically. So yeah, that's the only thing that really that crossed my mind as soon as I saw it. Like I was like, I couldn't believe it.
Did you? Yeah, I mean, I agree, because I think we both knew, like you said, the AI was way better on 17, but I think we both realized how it was just coded in so systematically back then, because if the guy you are trying to mark is running away, and I kept asking you, are you sure you're not telling him to like L1? He just kept running away from me, and that was like mind-blowing, and that was the main clip, even though the one that people always point to is the minimap one, because it's like more simple to understand, but those ones were way more, I guess, mind-blowing to me. Which, by the way, breaking news, Ribera with the host. Just gonna give Ribera, grazie mille però, stiamo facendo un podcast, quindi continuo, però grande, sei una bestia. Forza Roma. Lazio merda, grazie mille. Anyways, yeah, you were gonna say something, or?
Yeah, the only thing is, like, when we're talking about AI movement, I expected them to shuffle, basically, right? Like, you'll see people just walk around, just basically be like position themselves in a good scenario, but they were actually sprinting. And what I mostly remember about AI, because FIFA 17 has been 3 years now, like it's been a long time, like, and what I remember is attacking wise, I remembered the AI movement like really, really specifically. I could see the runs in the box. There were more diagonal runs, more smart runs. That's what I like still remembered of it. But I just couldn't remember like the fact that in midfield, like even if in the build up that people were running around all over the place, like full sprint trying to get the ball. Like that was mind blowing to me.
We took it for granted. We didn't have to think about it. We didn't have to think about it. It was just, yeah, I'm going to have 6 options when I turn around. No issues.
Yeah.
But did you think it was gonna blow up the way it did when you made? Like, we knew it was a good video, right?
Yeah, and no, as soon as we saw that, we knew FIFA 17 had way better AI, and our jaws literally dropped. So like we knew at that point, like, oh shit, we found something here.
But 100,000 worth. Because I was like,
I didn't know. I knew this video would blow up. I had no idea like this big, that it would be this big.
Yeah. And
So,
actually,
yeah.
people told me, yo, shout Persian out. So if you're watching this from that video, choose Persian. His ad is in the bottom left. Because obviously we were making the clips together. Now, let's get into the misconceptions first. There's a lot of comments. 99.999% were incredible. So shout out to everyone for the support. But there's some misconceptions that we wanted to talk about. I guess number one, a lot of people put it in my mouth because I guess it's partly my fault, because a lot of the times these videos I go back and show examples of FIFA 17, so everyone's like, stop saying FIFA 17 was a great game. It wasn't. I didn't really say it was a great game. I just specifically, because a lot of people look at that video and say, but you forgot this, this, and this. Well, I didn't. I just have 1,000 videos all for each subject. And in this video, the subject was offensive AI and second man press. And those two aspects were good in FIFA 17. Just those two. We're not saying... We remember crab walking. Trust me. We both remember crab walking. We remember park the bus. The servers being... Shielding, bro. We remember the servers being awful. Genuinely trash. There's so many other things, but we're
Worse
not
than they are now. That's the only thing they slightly improved. Like
for sure.
You would get a lot of DCs as well in that game.
Oh yeah, you got tons, right?
Yeah.
So we're not saying that. It's just like same with the passing video. Passing wasn't anywhere perfect near in FIFA 17. There were the nutmegs, this and that, but I was trying to explain the balance in FIFA 17, how the same issues that were still there were either a lot smaller, or because of the balance of everything else, they didn't play out the same way. So that's what we're trying to say there. We're not saying FIFA 17 is the holy grail.
I think the most important thing here is, say FIFA 17 was an average game, right? It was still playable in the sense that every time you played it, you got a different experience, because for the reasons we said, like the AI movement was different. There was more creativity in that game, basically. There were more things, like every time you play that game, you saw different things. So the game wasn't necessarily a great game. It was a very average game, in my opinion, but it was still playable in the sense that you could have fun. On the games that came afterwards, that became less and less. For me personally, anyway. I'm speaking from my own experience, but you can objectively look at certain things in the game in FIFA throughout the years, and you can see that they kept taking things out to maybe... I mean, they've admitted it. We've talked about this on the podcast. They've said they thought the game was too difficult, and they tried to make it easier. Like, we have the quotes, and like they've said it themselves, so they know what they're doing, basically. And sadly, it's making them more money as well, so I don't see that changing anytime soon. But yeah, we could see certain things just evaporating basically in this game when it comes to skill gap.
That's actually, I completely forgot about that. They released that for context sake. We talk about it all the time, but when FIFA 18 came out, they said they thought FIFA 17 was too difficult for casuals to recreate epic moments, so they introduced things to make it so that in FIFA 18 and then 19 even more and 20 even more, everyone had access to create to like epic moments, so to speak, and just do like things that were incredible, which makes me laugh because a ton of comments, not a ton, I keep exaggerating, again, a ton, the most were great, but of the small minority of negative ones, there were a few negative ones that said that my utopian FIFA with this offensive AI actually makes it too easy to attack, but it's ironic because that's exactly what was taken out to make it easier for everyone else. So it's just like things don't add up by the people like who don't agree with the, like, by all means, if you don't have to agree, and I'm open to changing my mind, but it doesn't add up. Like if that's your argument, it doesn't make sense that it's going to be easier just because it's easier to find passes, because you have to understand that might get easier, but now defending is probably like 500 times harder.
Yep.
And then obviously, which is something that is kind of a hot topic now because of like some fake rumors, but some people were talking about the Frostbite engine. First of all, I'm surprised at how many people said that FIFA 17 was good because it wasn't on the Frostbite engine. It was on the Frostbite engine. I don't know why people think that game wasn't, but it was. Second of all, the rumors that recently came up that FIFA's changing engine are false. And even if they were true, I just don't understand the hype. Because people seem to think that maybe they just want something to cling on and be like, maybe that'll change, right? They're so desperate with FIFA that like, roll the dice, something new comes out. But the code doesn't change. They just transfer it to a new engine. The code's old as hell. I mean, if it was a matter of engine, there wouldn't have be all the FIFAs prior to 17 would be better than 17. I don't know what you think about FIFA 16 version, but for me, that game was like...
Nah, that was, in my opinion, that like there's a lot of people that love 16, to be fair, but like for me, I mean, I'm biased because I played that game for 2 weeks and I saw it had a glitch where every time you would like basically get near someone, it was a pen when they would get in your box, and I was like, this is so broken, I can't even play this. Like, so I quit that game very early on, but the thing is, when people keep talking about engines you need specific knowledge to be able to talk about engines. You need to be a developer to even know what the hell is going on there. So I don't really want to touch on the engines necessarily. I'll say this though, everything they've done, I can't say everything, but most things they've done deliberately. So when they've taken out certain things that people liked, say the R1 pressing, like they did that deliberately. They made pressing really easy to do, basically by just flipping a switch. And we've shown in the video, like it's not, when people would say back in the day, oh, it's so easy to press, you just press R1 and you're fine. It's not that easy. Like if you really want to press effectively, you would have to player switch correctly. You would have to basically have vision to know when to press, where to press. Like you couldn't just press R1 and it would be the same as it is now. Now every passing lane gets covered, every man gets marked. Like there's no way out. When you would have to if let's say a gold 1 player that didn't know necessarily what they were doing and wasn't playing the meta way would just press R1 against me in foot champs, it would be so easy to play out of that. Like we showed that in the video as well. There's plenty of spaces that you can utilize when someone's just pressing R1 and running at you. Like it's not hard to get out of that. So I think when they've done certain things, they've made certain decisions to make the game more accessible to people that don't play it a lot and give them a chance to win against anyone. That's where you're going down a slippery slope, in my opinion.
So if you had to, we've talked about in previous podcasts that team press, these mentalities, drop back, and just all this weird stuff are massive issues. On a scale of like 1 to 5, 5 being like, this needs to be removed, and 1 being keep this, how would you rank these mentalities, the AI running for you all over the place?
That just needs to go.
So you'd be like 5, like what?
Yeah,
5 being like the worst.
Full send. Yeah, it's gotta go. Like the thing is, you want those things because they're extremely OP and they're actually game breaking, in my opinion. You want that to be manual. Like that has to be the skill gap. Like I would in 17 when I would play really top like pros and like the Stranger for back in the day, like he was really good in FIFA 17. I could notice, like, and I wasn't a bad player, I was a good player in my opinion. I could notice the skill gap. I noticed how good he pressed. I noticed how attacking he played. Like, that was the skill gap. I could respect that. Like, I could see, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. Now, anyone can do it. Anyone can just flip the switch, and it feels like you're being pressed by Prime Barca. Like, it just feels like a cop-out, in my opinion.
That's facts. It doesn't matter who you are in the world. If you have a goal kick and you're playing a bronze player, someone who can't even qualify to weekend league, and they have team press on, it doesn't matter who they are. Everyone in your team is marked. Everybody. Absolutely everyone is marked. But now, for context sake, right? Because we keep mentioning R1 being a way better solution and tool to create these pressing maneuvers. obviously there was the glitch that we both, not the glitch, sorry, the exploit that we both mentioned. You'd find someone, and this was mostly a problem not with like really bad players, but decent players. You face a decent player and maybe he has bad gameplay, maybe he's lazy. He's sitting on the edge of his box with Vieira, holding R1 to second man press you and the AI follows you, right? So that was the worst part of that feature. That was like the downfall that could have definitely been tuned instead of just destroying it. So on a scale of 1 to 5, now if everything we just mentioned is a 5, how bad was that for you?
Personally, that wasn't even that hard to circumvent, but I'd say, okay, it's a 3 for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
I'm saying you're right. They should have tuned it. Like, they should have tuned it and not completely destroyed it. Like, the button's there, but it's pointless.
Yeah. It's actually pointless.
They nerfed it into the ground. They nerfed it into the ground.
And like, it's crazy to me because there are still people who die by or not die, but like they think or they believe that it hasn't changed. So it's like, how were you using it before if you don't think it's changed? Because you could actually run around. But the main point is that it's a matter of balance. A lot of people bring that back up when we talk about second man press, but like, and I'm not doing this to meme, but like the totality of everything. I had to use that word. You just see the meta is in a much better place before than now with what we have now. And so someone actually said this before you got here, but like, he was asking me what I thought about these pressing, and his question was something like, the way these mentalities work and the way they press, does that for you mean that there's a ton of AI in the game, and should it be less? And I don't know if you agree, but for me, like it means there's a ton, but it's just in the wrong places. I think I'm all for AI, and I was just surprised at how many people. I think you mentioned this comment to me. Someone said, if there's a manual defending, there should be manual attacking as well.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Which is like outrageous. Like I guess it makes sense, but it's a bit too one-dimensional for me. The whole L1 and R1, it's like you're taking something that should be a tool to assist you in attack and treating it like it should be your bread and butter, like it should be everything in the game. At that point, you're limiting yourself to like, what, 2 channels of entries, 3 things you can possibly do, and no creativity. And it goes back to the point you made earlier about every time you log on to FIFA, there's a different outcome. Because while FIFA was always a game of patterns, you didn't always score the same pattern.
I mean, I think I saw... Who was it? I think I saw Danny Taylor tweet you in one of these tweets saying, I barely needed to use L1 and R1 in FIFA 17. Like, it wasn't necessary because the AI was so intelligent in that game that you wouldn't need to do that. Like, there was no need for it. You just had plenty of options, and the game had so many more there were so many more runs being made that you didn't even have to press L1 or R1. So if you're saying that in attacking sense, you have more runs, how can that be a bad thing? You want this game where everyone's standing still, where every game is 0-0, everyone's holding possession, nothing's happening. Like, how is this entertaining to watch? How is this fun? How's this fun? Like, that's the most important. The video is called Why FIFA Stopped Being Fun. And I don't understand when people say, like, no, everything has to be stationary, have no AI. Like, the whole basis of football, of good football, is movement. Like, there has to be movement. Otherwise, nothing happens. So, I don't understand those people, honestly.
Weird question, but and obviously, it's no one's fault. I mean, that's a weird word, whose fault is, but, like, how much blame do you put on the community for this? Do you think this is inevitable? Was this something that was going to happen regardless of what the community asked for? Or is it like misunderstood feedback?
Are you talking about like the pros that went to their capture, or what was
No, like the community in general, because what's the main thing you always hear? Oh, every year, it doesn't matter who you are, what level you play, everyone always claims that a patch here or there increased AI defending. Like everyone talks about added CPU, like such an abstract claim, but no actual like specifics. Is that because now essentially in a way, if you play balanced, there is no CPU. Like it's like 11 corpses on the field. Is this a case of misunderstood feedback?
I mean,
Poor
yeah,
feedback?
the whole problem is when people, like, when the community, so to speak, talks about these blanket statements, there's more AI, there's more of this, there's more of that, like, no one really goes in depth. Like, that's why people appreciate your channel right now, because you're going in depth. You're talking about, okay, what issues did we have? The center backs, like the center back line dropping into the box, like team press automatically being like triggered when someone's holding possession for too long. Like, there's all these like tiny little intricate things that are in the game that people don't talk about in depth. They just say like these blanket statements, oh, AI is too much, AI is too much. What about AI is too much? Defensively, offensively, in what sense? Like, where does it happen? Like, you need to be more specific with feedback instead of just making blanket statements, because that's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, and I think I agree. Because the reason I asked is because I think I showed you the tweet earlier, but someone asked me on Twitter if the abysmal decision to remove the AI was actually the result of feedback by the community. And he said, including some well-known people that he won't mention during the closed beta. And I know I wouldn't even mention the beta. I think this is like years and years of people screaming of less AI, and this is what we got. We saw a little bit of that in FIFA 18. I still remember watching the capture event videos of content creators, and everyone's like, there's no AI. We're freaking out. There's no AI. You can't defend on this game. Which sounded good on paper, but in practice, nah, man. That was like...
in practice, what happens is, as soon as you... the less AI there is in defense, the more people will drop back, in my opinion. The more defensively, the less AI there is, the more defensively people would play, because they're scared to make mistakes. Like, if they're defending individually, like, if you want to take out everything, right? You want to take out the AI defense, you need to nerf like things like drop back. You need to nerf things like overload ball side, because that's what happens. Like, I mean, obviously overload ball side is an AI mechanic, but the point is, the more you do that, like if FIFA 17 had a lot of AI defense, and back then people were complaining about it. And in that game, you could, like, the skill gap was, you could easily break down people because you had a lot of offensive AI as well. So if you have offensive AI that balances that defensive AI, in my opinion, the defensive shouldn't even be that big of an issue. Because if there's plenty of runs being made, you can make plenty of gaps in someone's defense. Like, it doesn't matter how good the AI defense is at that point, for me anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like the most basic aspect of it, because then, you know, a lot of people will be like, okay, I understand, but then you'll have the people saying it's outrageous that you would even entertain the fact of more AI in general in this game. But you have to understand, that's when you get into like, you go beyond the tip of the iceberg. You start to see, okay, what is FIFA 18? What is FIFA 19? What is FIFA 20? These are all games where the defense doesn't hold their line, where they keep dropping back. And so the meta in all three games, to a pretty decent extent, was never getting in behind the defense. It was always getting towards a certain point, turning and shooting. You never actually have to beat, and we see this all the time, the defender. You can just get close enough and then shoot around a defender who's perfectly in front of you, which in a video game just doesn't translate fair. It doesn't feel like the attacker does enough to score, and it doesn't feel like the defender made enough mistakes. Especially in games like 18, 19, and 20 with the passing assistance that they have, getting to the... People used to say, oh, at least in FIFA 18 you had to get into the box. Getting to the box meant nothing. Like, it was the easiest game to get into the box I've ever played in my life because of how bad passing was. So that just goes out the window. FIFA 17 had so many issues, but something that was good is that, okay, did you just get nutmeg pass and the ball passed your CDM? And now your opponent has the ball with Team of the Year Suarez on the edge of the box, you still have a chance because A, you have the option to keep your defense flat. They don't keep dropping back. And B, more often than not, a good player will be like, it's not enough. I need to get back. I need to get by the defense as well. Because, yeah, maybe some people go for the long shots, but the long shot didn't feel as punishing. The near post didn't work as well. You had all these factors that pretty much didn't punish you for the game's shortcomings. And now, because that's why I always say it feels like a game of basketball more than football, because it feels like you're going for an ISO, which refers to just taking someone. It's not even 1v1, because if you take someone 1v1 in football, you expect a dribble. There's no dribbling past people. It's just you're in front of someone, and the 1v1 is you move either side and shoot. So it's like the exact same difficulty or feeling, I should say, of doing a 1v1 in basketball and going for a jump shot, but this is football. It doesn't work like that, It's so much harder. So, whoa, that was that. So,
moving on, I have a question for you, though.
Go for it.
Because since you made the video and a lot of people reacted to it, like, what stuck with you? Like, what responses? Like, I saw like Nepenthes reacting to it. I saw different people, like bigger YouTubers, talking about it. Like, what stuck with you? Negatively, positively? Like, what was really
negatively? Negatively, I don't have many thoughts. I think most of the negative comments I saw, I just kind of chuckled. I think a lot of them just had no idea. Look, I don't think I'm the prophet of FIFA or anything. I just make videos because I think if you want something changed, make your case. And that's what I like to do. And that's that. If you agree, great. If not, no. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying I'm open to changing my mind. But a lot of people are like, learn the game. Bro, like, I have thousands of games. I've gotten, from the casual standpoint, I've achieved everything you could ever achieve in foot. I've packed the best players, had the best ranks, There's nothing more unless you look at the pro scene. So, like, it's not a matter of me learning the mechanics. It's just...
That made me chuckle a lot as well when I would read your comments and random people would say, like, well, just learn the game and learn the mechanics and you'll understand. Bro, like, this is... they were speaking like you were, like, some random gold 1 player that didn't know what he was talking about. They don't understand that you get Elite 1, you get Top 100, like... It's not an issue of not being good enough at the game, and that's why you're complaining. That's not the issue here.
Yeah, adapting isn't at all the issue. So mostly it was positive, and I was just blown away by how many people, I guess, felt the need to share the video. I really appreciated that. The need to a lot of people liked it. A lot of my videos are passing, but not as many people feel like about passing as they do about offensive AI, which makes sense in a way. But yeah, I think before we get into that, you said the Nepenthes thing. Obviously, Nepenthes, the biggest, probably, maybe, YouTuber that could ever watch a video that you make. And so he shared it in the chat, which obviously is great. I appreciate that. And one thing, he loved the video, so I'm glad he did, and he spoke really well of it. And I watched the stream in which he shared it. And it's not like they were talking about my video. My video was just like, oh, this is what he said. It was a great video. You guys should watch it. And he added to this discussion, and they were talking about the general state of the game, why they don't like it, the patterns. And then I found it interesting how, as he inserted my video, it led to certain things. And he ended the discussion with, but at the end of the day, there's a reason pros like him and her get 30-0 with keepers and silvers and this and that and that. And I found that interesting because I'm not saying he's saying that my video doesn't matter because pros, I'm just interested because a lot of conversations end up there anyways. And I feel like that's not somewhere I want the conversation to go, because that's not the point of the video. And I think you'll agree, because the point of the video was literally in the title. And it said, why FIFA stopped being fun. It didn't say why I don't win as many games as I do in FIFA 20 compared to FIFA 17. It didn't say why I don't get top 100. It didn't say why me, Italian Stallion, should be a pro player and it's because of the game. I never blamed the game for that or this or that. I just said this is not fun. You put, not Nepenthes, not hit, like if you get to a point where you start thinking, oh, but he still gets 30-0, then you have completely misunderstood the point of the video.
Yep. I mean, it goes to show that, like, even people that get consistent top 100 hate the game. Like, that says enough, no? Like, it's not about getting results. Like, the game is just not fun. Like, there's nothing happening. It's not enjoyable. for a lot of players, whether you're winning or losing. Like that's not relevant in this case. You just want to have something that's fun. You could be good at something and still not enjoy it.
Yeah. And it's just a shame that it always goes back to results. People saying take responsibility for your losses. I'm not talking about losses. Like I'm just talking about enjoying the game, having fun. That's what was so different about this video for me. It was purely from the fun aspect as opposed to the results and this and the fraudulent everything that there is to do with the outcomes in a FIFA game. And that's why maybe I think it stuck with a lot of people because of that. And most people, I think, got it. I just don't want it to get to a point that because someone goes 30-0, the game's fine. No one said you couldn't go 30-0. The question is how they get there.
Absolutely agree. So going on that, like we see like every game cycle right now, like the maybe one of the reasons why your video got shared so much is every FIFA game cycle, like we get around this period, right? Like during team of the season, like towards the end of team of the season, people start to get burnt out on the game and they realize, oh, well, in this game, it happened way earlier, but like we were at the start of this game, we were really critical about it, right? We were just looking at certain things in the game. We didn't like it. We explained why we didn't like it. You went to the FIFA capture event before the game was even out, and you gave the feedback when everyone was extremely positive. The pros at the events were extremely positive, and you were pretty much like the only one in the desert, like screaming that the game wasn't good in your opinion. But what do you think? Do you think it's the game cycle that people towards the end of it start to, because they're burnt out or whatever reason, or do you think it's genuine now that people are sick of it and they're going to actually learn from it? Because every year it's the same thing. Like towards the end of the FIFA that they're playing at that year, like even in 17, if we're being honest, like in 17 we got burnt out on that game, and we were like, okay, we'll see next year, hopefully. But we had an idea, maybe hopefully they'll build on this, like they'll build on 17 and they'll take the broken things out. But what I'm trying to say is every year we start with this fresh positivity that like this game is going to be the game, even though every year it's getting worse. So why do you think that is?
Yeah. Well, first on a side note, I think it's hilarious. We went from hopefully they build on this to hopefully they destroy everything and start from scratch. But
true.
Key point. But yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I think that if I make the exact same video that I just made, exactly the same, I firmly believe that if I make it and I post that October, 2 weeks after global release, whatever, no one's liking it. I'm telling you, bro. People are like, it's all in your head. No, bro, have you tried this instruction? This or that.
I agree, and I'd say people would say you're nitpicking and like this. It's probably your custom tactics. Like even now, people were saying custom tactics, even though we check before the game. Like I check my custom tactics and we put everything on organized, like basically like very fucking bland, like right. So it's not the custom tactics. It's not that, but I agree. People would see what they want to see, but like I don't know, man. I feel like. Even like pros like Mo Aubameyang, I saw them tweet a while back that he basically said really harsh, I'm never going to trust like EA developers ever again because they made promises that they didn't like deliver on, basically, is what he was saying anyway in his tweet. So I think he was scoring in that sense. So I don't know what to say. Like
I think there's so much to say here, because a lot of people are like, oh, we need the pros at the events. And I think classifying or just saying you need a group of people based on a title like that is just, I think you need diverse people there, and more importantly, people who can see things. We always go back to like not every best football player in the world turns out to be the best coach. It's kind of like that in a way. You see, obviously, there's not many exceptions. Mourinho, one of them. Saki, legendary Italian coach. People who've never played the game of football become legendary coaches. And I think there'd be many more if the barrier to entry in the industry wasn't so tough to a point where like it's kind of made in a way that for pros to retire and become coaches more so than not pro players, going off to be coaches. But FIFA doesn't really have that barrier to entry. So I think more than ever, more than focusing on feedback from pros. Just because you know how to play the game doesn't mean you know A, what's best for the game, or B, you just kind of know what to do and you play. You don't even think about it that much. You know, it's fair. People treat it like I gotta win and that's it. You don't analyze it because some people just don't care. They just play it to play and they don't want to think about it. And it makes sense to me because, dude, I was posting outrageous near post clips about the game at the start, and people were telling me, I don't see anything wrong with that. There's a gap. Yeah, there shouldn't be the gap. What are you talking about? Like, no one's... Why is the keeper standing so far away from the near post from the deadest angle? That's why it scares me that I believe this video, that right now is over 100,000 views and thousands of likes and so much support and shares, would not get 1% of the support if I post that in April, because everyone is so convinced that they know everything about the new FIFA, that it's perfect, it's the best FIFA ever.
It's more the hype that just, like, the hype for the new game just drowns out criticism, in my opinion.
Yeah, all of a sudden,
not just and legitimate criticism. Like, you give evidence as to why you're criticizing this aspect of it, and people would still like deny it or like just ignore it, basically.
There's like a mob mentality to it. Like, you say something, like I say something about the game, and then instead of someone counter or showing a clip, no, but look, this is proof that you can do that, or whatever, they just say, maybe you're just trash at the game. Oh, good point, bro. Holy shit. Phenomenal point, dude.
Yeah.
I salute you for that point. So I think a lot of it comes down to, like, the community needs to get needs to take a long, hard look at themselves. And I'm not saying being wrong is a shame. Dude, I've been wrong about certain things, and I always say, damn, I did not expect this to end up that way, whatever. The problem is not being wrong. The problem is being wrong, like so wrong, and then instead of saying, yeah, next year I'm gonna wait a bit more. No, you die and you take it to the grave that there was a mysterious patch that added all these problems. That kills me. Yeah. That absolutely kills me. I agree. Remember playing a game so early on in the game cycle that people were still playing. It wasn't even the game cycle. People were still playing Team of the Season on FIFA 19. And I remember playing a game of FIFA 20. Someone put on overload ball side, and that was the moment I was like, yeah, we're done. We're done. There's nothing moving. My strikers don't move. There's no spaces, no runs. We're screwed. And I remember being laughed at when I was like, yo, overload ball side needs to be looked at. All the while, one pro's using it and they're getting 30-0s, and two pros use it, they're both getting 30-0s. Mm-hmm. And like everyone's using it. And then finally, the pros all use it, and now they're like, oh yeah, it is a problem. So now they're not laughing at Stallion anymore. Now they're like, yeah, this is a problem. So it's just stupid, man. Like, I don't think they should listen to me and just be like blindly do what I say. But I also don't think that it's healthy to only do something when all of the pros agree unanimously, like they're the holy grail. I just think there needs to be more, I don't know. I don't even know the solution.
For pros, there's like less complaints when they're the only ones doing it, right? Like, yeah, like back, like I think it was like I don't know which event it was. Like there was this pro, like one of the first one that used overload ball side. He was using it no issues when he could make money off it, and when he could basically win his games with it. But as soon as it became known to everyone that overload ball side was a thing, they started complaining about it. The same people that were using it when no one else was and saw no issues using it when no one else was. And when everyone started using it, they started complaining about skill gap. Well, there wasn't an issue with skill gap when you were the only one using it, was there? Like, that's the issue I have with, like, there's no I'd say objectivity in that sense,
Yeah. And that's why even if there is a day that, like, they make a game and by some odd chance I get to play it early, if I come out and say this is the greatest FIFA of all time, which would honestly be the most terrifying thing I could ever say in public, because, like, if that backfires, it is what it is. Whatever, you take the L. But, like, even if I go out and say it, like, just don't trust me either. Like, just don't, just be on the lookout. Be like, okay, let's just wait. But hey, man, if I come out and say that, I'll be very excited because, you know, at least I'll be happy for a month. And maybe I take a massive L later on. But even because I'm not trying to say, listen to me if I say it's bad or good. Even if I say it's great, don't listen to me. Okay. Just don't. Just wait it out. See how long it takes for people to learn the mechanics. And if the mechanics that have to be learned to win aren't like overload ball side, then okay, maybe there's a chance. But if they are, then you'll see, dude. It's not a patch that saved it. Or that ruined it. It's just people learned the game.
Agreed. That's literally what we said at the start of that game as well. Like, wait it out, see. Like, no, like people were playing draft at the start of the game and talking about, oh, this game is great, and like, yeah, I can attack, I can do what I want. But we were saying, like, wait for the meta to catch up, things will change. And what happened? The meta caught up and things changed. As soon as people knew what they were doing, they saw their little tutorial videos and they were like, okay, now we know how to play. And that's when people's lives started to become miserable.
They started shooting your post.
Yeah.
They did all this weird stuff. It's just... and what kills me is like, I felt so bad. Like, people think I enjoy... Dude, I felt so bad at the start. I was deflated. I didn't have the hope. Everyone eventually got deflated, but I didn't even have the initial euphoria of happiness because I was like, yeah, I'm never going to like this ever.
Yep.
And then it gets to a point where you just feel bad because then you're like, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm what's wrong with the community because I can't accept it. But then over time, you're like, yeah, this time at least, I was right. Like, it's not fun for just like to clear that up. I want to like it. I really do. It would be the best if I liked it.
Yep. You want to take questions from the chat, or do you have something else to say?
Yeah, we kind of went through everything. So I guess if you guys have any questions that we want to talk about, this is the time. Persian will select the best.
I'm just reading through them. Honestly, I don't think there will ever be another good game in the FUT Champs era. The only way to improve the perception of the game is for a big shift in everything, including game modes. Even if FIFA 20 was good, nobody would like it. I don't know if I agree with that. I would say that they definitely need a shift in game modes. I definitely agree with that. But I think if FIFA 20 was good, people would like it because, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't.
That's an interesting question because that's kind of like saying remove FUT Champions from the game, keep Rivals just in case you want to do an ELO sweat, right? And then have an open matchmaking mode like the World Cup mode style, but just adapted to the Champions League, where it's open matchmaking. Every time you play a game, you get a untradeable pack, etc., etc. And all of a sudden, people are enjoying the game. That's interesting. I can only speak for myself and say that because of how I am, no matter what I'm doing, eventually I'm going to consume the competitive aspect of the mode, of the game. And eventually I'm going to step into Rivals and I'm going to realize that the game is absolutely awful. Even if we assume I enjoy playing pub stomping, I'm going to realize playing against the sweat is awful. And once I realize that even if I get amazing, I'm not going to enjoy competing against other good players, that's when I'm like, I'm done. That's when I'm like, what's the point?
I would say though that if you change the game modes and you bring more casual, like the tournament modes we had back in the day, if you bring that does take the edge off the game, you know, like
for sure.
It makes it way more relaxing. You don't have to sweat every time. So I do agree with that, but I don't know. If the game's good, the game's good. Like, I don't see why people wouldn't like it.
Yeah, I wouldn't belittle the massive difference in gameplay. Like, I wouldn't put that much. I would put part of it, sure, of why 17, because FUT Champions, I get it. It's more fresh in FIFA 17 compared to 20. But I feel like putting too much emphasis on that really takes away from the main thing, that the gameplay turned to crap.
PL asks, is an objective game mode necessary at this point?
Yes, please.
Simple answer, absolutely.
What were we doing yesterday, Persian? Tell the people. Well, we did.
It was
what I did.
You were trying to do the Guaya objective, and I had the miserable job of trying to match you and give you a free win.
Yeah, and
basically, we sat there for 20 minutes trying to match each other, so you could do that objective because it's such a drag to actually. It's easier to do that than to actually go through the trouble of doing it. It's not fun. Like, these objectives is just.
Yeah, and I did it. Like, I did, for the record, you have to win 6 games while scoring and assisting with a Ligue 1 midfielder, so kill me, please, in a rivals game, right? And I did 5 out of 6. I was like, I can't. I'm done. Persian, we're matching right now. Give me the win. I'm scoring and assisting with Verratti, and I'm out of here. It's awful. Like, it's awful. And what my biggest fear is they hear this and like they make a workaround so you can't do that. Where the answer is just do a mode.
Marseria says they need to restrict weekend league just like they do in competitive COD to ban certain things like the width, basically, like 4 or 5 width. And what do you think of that?
No.
So you need more width, more depth, or whatever.
Like I think I mean, I'll take it. I would take restrictions, but I what I'm scared of is like people use these bandage solutions and ignore the main problem. Like I don't want nothing to change and looking for like, okay, short term, sure, but long term that something needs to be done to change the game.
I think you're just putting a bandage on something. Like you just need to change the game itself instead of trying to bandage like the broken things, you know? The game in itself is flawed, so you need to take out the issues. Like when you put 4 or 5 width or like 10 depth or whatever as a restriction, there's something wrong with your game that you have to force people to play that way. So just make it that playing 1 depth isn't as OP as it is now. Have either of you had a conversation with a dev and thought they are on the same wave as you? Or are you like, Christ, we're tuned? Says Ultra D. That's a question for you, Stallion.
Yeah, I have. I've had conversations where I'm like, I like this. I'm just waiting for saying the same thing about the gameplay.
I think the problem here is it's not just the devs. The devs can have as many ideas as they want. It has to be accepted by the higher ups, I think. Like they can have ideas, but they need to be able to implement them. Ricky Dero says, I wanted to ask you if FIFA is a situational game for you. That is, players always respond in a determined way if subjected to the same situation during a game.
I think that's also a bit what ruined FIFA. Like, people want the same exact result every single time because esport this, esport that. Like, people always make the comparison in CSGO. If you fire the gun, there's always the same recoil pattern. Like, you can't translate that to football. I'm not saying random things should happen. I'm just saying, congratulations. We now have a game where we have 3 different patterns, and that's it. And that's how you score. So I think you have to be careful. If that's like, if I interpreted the question correctly, when you say that the same thing should happen every single time. Now, obviously, if you're alone in front of the keeper, yes. Okay, I understand that such thing. But then, how do you code a game where that happens 10 out of 10 times, but then you also don't have the same pattern happening every single time? So it depends. For offensive AI, it should be so fresh that you barely see the same thing over and over.
PL asks, what drawback do you guys think should come along with using dropback?
First of all, scoring is a nightmare. You know when you play like, what's the most like, for example, 4-2-3-1 wide is one of those formations where I'm like, if I score 3 goals, I've done insane. Like, I need that feeling with dropback. If I score 2 goals, I'm cracked out of my mind. You shouldn't be able to score that easily with dropback. It should be super hard.
So you want them to not be able to score?
Yeah, anyone who's on drop back, you're pretty much saying scoring is going to be like climbing Mount Everest. And also, offensive AI just needs, so it's not even related to drawback. Offensive AI needs to be cracked and maybe more of a stamina nerf.
Stamina, absolutely. I agree with the stamina nerf.
Because it's an extreme. Team press is one extreme, or high pressure, and drop back is the other extreme. It should be a tactic that you're like, I need to use this for 5 or 10 minutes.
Why do you think people play this game? I don't think people play the game to have fun, but rather they do just to go through the motions and cycle of rewards and addiction. Do you feel the player base has some form of addiction? Well, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I can even speak for myself. I don't even spend FIFA points, and like getting good packs and getting good reds is like the pinnacle of this game, basically. It's not playing the game. You just want the good reds and you want the good packs. So I wouldn't even say I'm addicted, but there's definitely some sort of high to a good pack or a good player pick.
There's a high, but if I speak for myself, and definitely for you too, there's also a very low. Like, there's a high when you make the team, you finally solved you maximize what you can do with chemistry restrictions and your budget. You see the team in front of you and you're happy. But then there's also an instant low when you're like, I can't enjoy this team in the game. So That's also very important. So for us, I definitely think we're kind of those people who we're not fully like on a dopamine rush, you know? But yeah, that's by far the best part of the game as of right now, which is why, I mean, it's a card game essentially.
Green Bean says, "Are we essentially saying that the better player needs to win more often than they do now, everything else being equal?"
I think the better player still wins most of the time now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying being the better player in FIFA 20 means being good at things that shouldn't be rewarding. That's my problem.
Aura says, "Serious question to you in Persian. If you and Persian work for EA game developers, what will change and how would it affect us, the community?" Honestly, I don't. If I just speak for myself, I don't think any one person or two people can change anything within EA, because I think they know exactly what they're doing and they're not interested in making this game better. If I'm being really honest, ever since, like, there's a reason the game is getting worse every year and they're making more money, so I don't see it getting better, to be honest.
But for entertain the idea of you having full control in a utopian world.
If I had full control, I mean, this is a very, very difficult question, because it's not as simple as saying I would make the game harder and I would make the skill gap bigger, because it's not as simple as that. If you're being a developer, you need to have some sort of accessibility for the game to be able to be played by casuals, right? So there needs to be a balance there. I think it would just be way more balanced than it is now. I think you would try to find a way to make the skill gap bigger whilst not alienating your casual player base. Yeah. And I think a lot of it would come from when we're talking like champs, you wouldn't, in my opinion, it's not a good thing to be able to face someone that's 20-7 when you're about to go 30-0. Like, that's not how the matchmaking should be. Like, simple things like that, making the rewards more based on elo than champs or something. Like, that's from a gameplay perspective what I could say is the best idea, because I think it's really unfair for people that, like, why is Sunday, playing on Sunday, the best way to get a 30-0? Like, there's so many ways to influence matchmaking. There's so many ways to influence matchmaking. Like, it's kind of like weird.
I would make Donkey an icon.
From a gameplay perspective, it's really hard. This is something you can't really like answer off the cuff, to be honest.
Yeah, if anything, I'd be like, all right, everybody stop what you're doing. Leave like 3 people for some content so people don't go crazy. Everyone else in the office, we're fixing the gameplay. And that's it. Nothing else is happening. Nothing else.
Definitely what they're doing now. I have trouble like believing that they're genuine in their effort to fix the whole gameplay thing and like the connection thing. And I don't know if they even can. But that's first and foremost a very important thing, and that in theory should be the easiest thing to do. Like the connection, like just fix that. Like you're not delayed constantly, you're not playing in mud. Like that would go a long way. Even if the game's bad, obviously the game's still bad, but like at least you won't feel cheated when you're playing in delayed gameplay or whatever. Thing is, how many people go 25-0, for example? So you have to match with people with worse record in order to actually play. Well, that's the issue. Like, that's my whole point. I wouldn't make it based off record. I would make champs based off elo. So the same way you play rivals now and you play against someone with similar skill rating, that's how you would get your rewards instead of playing for records. Like, I think the whole idea of champs is unhealthy. Like, why would you have to play a set amount of games within a set amount of times and not lose? You could just make it so it's more based on elo. So even if you take a loss, it's not detrimental to your rewards.
Yeah, the whole mode it's really just a flashy thing. It's just such a jackpot for them on the concept, but for us as consumers, it's really unhealthy. And there's no way you can perfectly fix it in the format it is when you have a time limit. There's no way. Because like Mitch said, you could be 25-0 with 5 minutes left in Weekend League. You're going to match someone who could be silver, because there's no time, there's no players, someone needs to match you, The competitive mode, honestly, with champs makes sense if it's just like super casual and like insanely open matchmaking.
There's a reason why Foot champs to pro players means nothing anymore because it's not the most skill based mode anymore, which it used to be, but it's not anymore. Now it's rivals. Rivals is more skill based and sweaty than foot champs, in my opinion. So like if they had different tiers to weekend league, like with divisions, you play people only within your own tier, like bronze, silver, gold, elite. Not sure how that would work, but I'm trying to visualize it.
Dude, imagine
yeah, go ahead.
30 games between people only in D1. Get me out. I'm never playing that. I'm never playing that. No, I don't want to touch that.
I wouldn't even say it's a set amount of games that you have to play. I think you can play more or less. It just depends on what elo you finish on. That's what the reward tier is.
Kex getting top 100 with like 14 wins. Nah, not 4. He'd probably get like 25 out of 30. He wouldn't get 30 if he's playing only like people in his skill rating.
I mean, there is elo currently. There is elo currently in champs. Like that's the skill rating. That's the whole idea. Why
the cap is low?
Why do people play on Friday? Like it's a really simple concept. Everyone starts on the same skill rating in champs, right? So on Friday, if you go 0-0, everyone has the same skill rating. Why do people play on Friday? Because the odds are you won't face someone that's gone 10-10 and lost a bunch of skill rating. If you play someone that's 0-0, the odds are his skill rating is still pretty high and you get more skill rating. That's why people play on Friday a lot. Or that's why people play 10 games on Friday at least, usually, when they want to go top 100 with a 30. That's the whole problem, man. Competitive, whatever way you do it, it's gonna have to be sweaty. Like, there's no other way to play competitive. Otherwise, it wouldn't be competitive. Also, if you get a 30-0 and you don't get top 100, it is a daylight robbery. I agree with that. Like, I don't understand why is there not even a tier between Elite 1 and top 100? That's weird to me.
Very weird. Plenty of people who've done it right on other games and ways to implement it, but it just feels like not all the money that is made from Foot is properly reinvested. So even though it sounds funny when you say resources are limited because the money they make is absurd, it's just true. I just feel like not all the money goes back. And so when we ask for new game modes, it sounds more than acceptable and feasible, and it should be, but it probably just isn't because there's probably just not enough time and everything's focused on other priorities to like milk the cash cow. Well, thank you so much for everyone listening. If you're on YouTube, thank you as well.
Leave a comment if you're on YouTube. Leave a comment if you're on YouTube. We'll take it into for the next podcast. If you have a question, if you have a comment, whatever. Absolutely. The more topics we have, the sooner the next episode will be. Well, on that note, goodbye.